Pelicans fans, welcome into another edition of Pelicans Preview presented by Smoothie King. I'm Caroline Gonzalez. The Pelicans are approaching their 7th of their 8 seeding games inside the NBA bubble. They'll take on the Sacramento Kings on Fox Sports New Orleans coming up at 8 p.m. All right, time now to welcome in our guest for today's show, radio color analyst for your New Orleans Pelicans and my dear friend, John DeShazier. Now, JD, we've watched a few seeding games out of this Pelicans team. We've seen several players step up for the Pelicans, J.J. Redick, Nico Melli, Frank Jackson. What have been your key observations for the Pelicans so far in these seeding games?
Well, a little bit disappointed, and some of that is, my own selfishness. I wanted to see this team in the playoffs. Obviously, I think we all did. And I think this team expected, as it headed to Orlando, to be eligible for the playoffs, or at least for the play-in. And unfortunately, just hadn't played that way. If there are positives, the glaring one would be J.J. Redick's play. The way he has performed in Orlando, 18 points a game, 46% from three-point range, a 31-point outburst in his last game against San Antonio. I thought he has shown his true professionalism throughout, and I think Derek Favors has held up fairly well throughout. But we weren't looking for individual superlatives. We were hopefully looking for team superlatives, and we've had to lean back on what guys have done individually because, unfortunately, as a team, they haven't performed the way they thought they would.
You're right on that one, JD. Well, on Sunday night, Portland knocked out officially the Pelicans for playoff contention with their win. So, JD, if you're the Pelicans for these next 2 games, they have 2 games remaining left in the bubble beginning tonight. How do you self-start? How do you self-motivate if you're the New Orleans Pelicans?
Well, first, you got teammates who rely on you, and that should be enough for most guys. You hope that's going to be enough. But if that's not enough, the second thing is you're a professional. This is your job. This is what you get paid to do. This is how you fight for yourself and your family. And hopefully, when you hear guys talk about generational wealth, well, this is where it begins. And so the way you play is a reflection of you and your family and everything you represent. That's who you're out there. And the third thing I hope that they have in the back of their minds is, they hadn't played well. That should, as a competitor, tick you off. You want to give a better representation of yourself than the Pelicans have given. So hopefully those 3 things mixed up one way or the other will spur this team to play better.
All right, before we get into tonight's game, let's take a look back at your Pelicans game against the San Antonio Spurs. It was another tough one for your Pelicans. Of course, we all know that Greg Popovich and his Spurs are not going to beat themselves. They started out white hot, shooting the ball really, really well for the Spurs. Again, they are not going to beat themselves, but the Pelicans came back. They brought it within 4 points. J.J. Redick for the Pelicans went off. He had a season-high 8 three-pointers and led all scorers with 31 points. But unfortunately, that just wasn't enough for the Pelicans. They fell to the Spurs 122-113. But, of course, we have highlights from that game if you didn't catch it. Let's go ahead and see some of those highlights.
Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans trying to stay within range of the playoff play-in in the Western Conference, taking on the San Antonio Spurs. But Zion struggling early on. Here in these first 2 quarters, unable to finish inside, ultimately the Spurs establishing a 40-26 lead. Here later in the second quarter, Derek White shaking Drew Holiday, driving in and getting it done inside the Spurs, leading the way by 17 at that point, 47-30. Then with 12 seconds to go in the half, DeMar DeRozan to DeJounte Murray for the corner 3. Murray had 18 points in this as the Spurs lead the way 62-45 at the half. Spurs in transition, Derek White blocked by Drew Holiday and landing awkwardly. Unfortunately, White would leave the game and not return with a bruised knee. You can stay with NBA.com for the latest on his health status. Later in the third quarter, the Pelicans getting back into the game, and Zion starting to change the momentum for not only himself, but his team as well. Spinning baseline for the dunk, then Rudy Gay driving baseline and dunking on Jackson Hayes for 2 of his 19 points, put the Spurs up 92-81. Into the fourth quarter, Brandon Ingram with a step-back 3. He had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in this game. J.J. Redick with the runner, plus the foul. He'd make that free throw. He had 31 points on 8 of 12 from deep. Holiday to Williamson for the transition layup. And as I mentioned, he certainly changed the momentum. 25 points in a bubble-high 27 minutes for Zion, but just not enough against DeMar DeRozan and the Spurs. DeRozan with 27 points as the Spurs win at 122-113.
All right, you just watched highlights of the Pelicans game against the Spurs. Obviously not the ending that the Pelicans wanted. JD, let's bring you back in to get your thoughts on this game. I feel like the word of the bubble has been bursts, and you saw bursts of performance out of the Pelicans against the Spurs. But obviously, as you mentioned on the broadcast, the Spurs aren't going to beat themselves. What were your takeaways from the Pelicans game against the Spurs?
Well, unfortunately, the Pelicans turned it over too much. 20 turnovers for 30 opposing points. It's hard to beat any team in the NBA that way. And generally, the Spurs don't give you anything to grasp onto to win a game, but they turned it over for them an alarming amount of times. They only came in averaging 12 turnovers a game. That's the fewest in the league. They got up to about 18 against the Pelicans, and the Pelicans were able to cash in on some of those. But because they turned it over so much themselves, they weren't able to totally capitalize on it. Then when the Pelicans put the Spurs on the foul line, what were they, 31 of 32, something absurd, almost bordering on obscene in terms of efficiency. But that's a team you can't foul. You can't put them on the line. You can't give them those opportunities to get those cheap points, and the Pelicans did all those things. And then the Pelicans starting backcourt, Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball, gave them next to nothing in that game offensively. Let's be honest. They shot a combined 4 for almost 20 or so, whatever. It was not what we were expecting out of those two guys. They're veteran players. Drew Holiday has been in much more difficult situations than the bubble. Lonzo Ball, we saw progressing, but those two guys really did not play well, and the Pelicans needed them desperately.
All right, time to officially turn the page past the Spurs game and focus on the Sacramento Kings game. And it's time for our squad goals presented by Zatarans. JD, if we all remember that Sacramento game against the Pelicans, the Kings came out white hot, making almost everything that they put up. So if you're the Pelicans going into tonight's game, what are your keys going into this game?
Well, first thing you better do is guard against the three. They made 16 of 33 in the previous game, and so the Pelicans have seen the Clippers make 25 threes against them. They've seen 16 threes by Sacramento. They've got to get out to the three-point line, challenge. Trust that your process will allow you to rotate defensively, but the initial shot, you've got to get that guy off the three-point line, or you've got to challenge him, and they didn't do a very good job of that. Second, they better find Bogdanovich. He went for a career-high 30-plus against them, and he lit the Pelicans up. Now, that might be Drew Holiday's responsibility, and Drew, one of the best one-on-one defenders in the NBA. Either him or Lonzo Ball will probably be responsible for that. Maybe they'll tag team him, but they've got to do something about him. You can't allow a guy who is, I don't want to say mediocre, but you can't allow a guy to just go off on you for his career high again after you've seen it previously. So they know what he's capable of doing. And third, Sacramento turns the ball over. They can be sloppy with it. So when they turn it over, the Pelicans have to take advantage. You want to get in those situations where you get some transition buckets. Get something cheap, because we've seen the Pelicans struggle somewhat offensively at periods during the bubble. So get some cheap points, some runouts, but you got to do that off turnovers, and you get turnovers by getting stops. So hopefully they can get it going defensively.
Absolutely, JD. I'm going to use your favorite phrase here in clamps, because we heard on JJ Redick's podcast with Damian Lillard credited Drew Holiday with being the best one-on-one defender in the league, the best guard defender in the league on that podcast. So Drew Holiday definitely needs to come out and put the clamps on him. All right, we'll hear more from JD in just a bit, but now let's go inside the bubble and hear from the team. It's time now for our Sound Up presented by Beats by Dre.
Is that I think we have to keep a good spirit about us in every game that we play. This is going to be an opportunity for the young guy to play and to get some extended minutes.
I mean, we can only get better from here. All the young guys, they can learn a lot from this experience. And, hopefully coming next year, we'll be ready and more prepared.
We just got to come out ready to play. And, in those games where we didn't come out ready to play, it showed.
I think we showed that when we're a healthy team, we can play with anybody, and like I said, we got a lot of young talent. Hopefully guys come back and we can start it up again.
But the big thing is that I think we have to keep a good spirit about us in every game that we play.
In the moment, it is very frustrating, but you're just looking at your teammates, just trying to do whatever you can to pick the spirits up.
We're fortunate to be here after losing, I think it was 13 in a row. So the fact that we were here showed, our fight towards the end. And, I'm proud of that.
Let's bring back in JD for one of our favorite segments. It is our Twitter takeover fueled by Chevron, where you, the fan, get to ask our analysts some questions. JD, you ready for these hard-hitting questions?
Let's get to it. Let's get it.
All right, this first one comes from Emily Sanders. What are the chances Ingram gets the Most Improved Player award?
Emily, if he doesn't get the Most Improved Player award, I'm going to wear a do-rag like he does for a year or something, I guess. I got no reason to wear a do-rag. So that tells you the belief I have that he should be the most improved player in the NBA. I don't know if he'll get it. I saw Luka Doncic's name in there. It's almost like Dallas is trying to throw him in there to get him something because he won't be the MVP. But if you're looking for improvement in totality of game, if it's not Brandon Ingram, I'm just not sure what they're judging on.
All right, please write it down. August 10th at something p.m. that JD has confirmed that he is going to wear a do-rag for a year if Brandon Ingram does not get selected as the MIP. So that is through Saints training camp and everything, mind you. All right, this next one comes from William Lee. With no playoffs, what are the goals out of the final games in the bubble?
Biggest thing, William, just play hard, man. Just play as hard as you possibly can. We've had some spurts in the bubble where I think the Pelicans themselves have said they haven't brought it. They have not been up to the task. They've got to consistently go hard. And the Pelicans are not a good enough team to where they can pick and choose where they turn it on. And painfully, they have seen that this entire season. So why they thought or had that process in their mind maybe when they went to Orlando, I don't know. But we've got to see this team play hard for 48 minutes. I don't know, or I don't think at least, that's asking too much. Because again, this is what you get paid for. This is what you're supposed to love doing. You hear these guys all the time saying how much they love ball, how much they enjoy what they're doing. Well, play with that kind of joy and that kind of energy and that kind of passion.
My job is to talk to you, and I don't have passion in it, so I have no joy. All right, this next one comes from Joseph May. What do you think have been the positives to take away from the team's time in the bubble? Okay,
here's the positive, Joseph. They got 8 extra games. And for them, the 8 games were supposed to be simulated playoff games. Now, they didn't play to that level, but they got 8 extra games. So here's the positive that comes from that positive, if you want to call that a positive. They hadn't played well. You hope that they'll carry this feeling over into next season because, look, there's nothing that the Pelicans can feel good about right now about what they put out on the court. So you take that and you kind of wallow in it because it's going to follow you the entire offseason into the next season. I don't care what you say about perception and reality. My reality of you is what my perception is of you. And the perception of the Pelicans right now is that they were a team that didn't belong in Orlando. So they're going to have to come out next season and show people we are a team that belongs. You hope that this result, this ending, stings. You hope that it ticks them off. You hope that it fuels them leading into next season because, again, the perception of them is that the NBA invited them in and they had no business being there. And then they played like a team that really didn't look like it belonged for periods of time in the bubble. So I hope that these last 8 games, as bad as the result has been, I hope that these last 8 games will be fuel for next season. So that's what I'll take from these last 8.
Great stuff there from JD. Hopefully I don't have to see him in a do-rag because I really just don't want to see that. All right, let's check back inside the NBA bubble with your favorite members of the Pelicans. We've heard from all of the rookies, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Zion Williamson, Jackson Hayes, but we cannot forget about the 4th rookie. It is Nicola Melli. He is a rookie. He is 29 years old. It seems crazy to call him a rookie, but that is what he is. We love having him on our Pelicans team. Let's find out more about him in this edition of The Bubble Beat.
I picked right away basketball, probably because my father played basketball. And basketball is the main sport probably in my hometown. You know, there were stories because he was a very talented kid. And after, for what he became and for what he is, you know, my hometown, Reggio Emilia, just love him. I spent also many years around the world, and I've met so many different nationalities and so many different backgrounds. And so it took a little bit, honestly, just to understand, because, you know, after 12 years, being used to a certain system, certain things, it wasn't easy. But I think, you know, first of all, I was lucky because I found a very good group of guys that helped me out, and then nothing. Honestly, I used a little bit of my experience, and so I'm not like rookie, but still I had a lot of things to learn, and I still have a lot of things to learn. You're still talking about that film? Oh my goodness. I think what NBA and NBPA did, you know, here, it's just amazing to give us this chance to play. And I think we should take advantage of a tough situation and, you know, use it as an opportunity under many aspects, not just the sport, but also, you know, what's happening all around the world. And I think it's just a great opportunity, and we should take advantage of it. I thought also to keep my name on the jersey right now, because it's a way also to represent what I think, who I am. Then I decided to write equality on my jersey because I think it's important, you know, to say loud and clear what you think. It's not the moment to leave it between the lines. But every time I wear my jersey, it's very important what is in front, but it's also very important what is on the back, because you know, when I step on the court, I represent a lot of people, a lot of friends, mostly family, and I'm just proud. I'm proud, and hopefully I make other people proud.
All right, great stuff there from our favorite Italian, Nicola Melli. Have to say it with some accent on it. All right, tip-off is coming up soon on Fox Sports New Orleans. Your Pelicans will take on the Sacramento Kings. All right, let's look ahead into next game and our Who's Got Next presented by Hancock Whitney Bank. Of course, I have to bring in my good friend John DeShazier for this one. JD, the last game for the Pelicans inside the bubble against the Orlando Magic. What are you looking out of that game?
I think we're going to see a lot of the young guys. I would imagine the Pelicans being eliminated already. There's not a whole lot of reason to play Drew Holiday or Zion Williamson or, you know, Derek Favors or any of those guys heavy minutes. So maybe this is Zylan Cheatham and Sindarius Thornwell and Jahlil Okafor, who hadn't been, you know, active or hadn't played in the bubble. Or maybe this is going to be a little bit of Nikhil Alexander Walker and Frank Jackson, Kenrich Williams. Probably see more minutes out of those young guys to just get them in there, get them in the fire, get some minutes under their belt, allow them to kind of handle this situation. Because again, you know, the last thing the Pelicans want to see is Zion Williamson twist a knee in a game that doesn't mean anything. The last thing they want to see is Drew Holiday turn an ankle in a game that really doesn't mean anything. So I expect to see the younger guys out there. Now, look, this ain't inside information. Nobody's told me this. This is just me theorizing why they would do this because of the situation.
Well, you're absolutely right, JD, and it gives the Pelicans time to see and maybe assess some of the talent that they have. They haven't seen a whole lot of Zylan Cheatham, Sindarius Thornwell. I feel like we have seen a lot more players step on other players' foot in the bubble than we have maybe this entire Pelicans season. But you're absolutely right, JD. It's time to possibly see some of the talent that these young players have brought to the Pelicans roster. All right, JD, well, that'll do it for us. Good luck on your call tonight, and we'll see you on the other side, my friend.
We'll see you, and hopefully next time I see you, I won't be wearing a do-rag.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Pelicans Preview presented by Smoothie King. Just a reminder, we'll be doing this for all of our seeding games. The last one coming up on Thursday as your Pelicans get set to take on the Orlando Magic. I'll be joined by studio host for Pelicans Radio, Daniel Sallerson. You don't want to miss it. All right, it is tip-off just moments away at 8 p.m. You can catch the game Pelicans against the Kings on Fox Sports New Orleans. All right, fans, let's get you fired up.
Down to the spin. Blocks it away. Blocked away by Drew Holiday. Got the triple.